Oh, I really hate it when I go through and do a recording and forget to hit the actual record button. Let's go through and do this article again. Forget the GDPR. The new new copyright proposal will be a complete and utter disaster for the internet. Now, before we start this, guys, a big shout out to Computing Forever, who has actually covered this, and this is where I got the information from. Let's jump into the story and tell you what's going on. Today is GDPR, and I'll have to look that up and do a story about that because I have no idea what that is. Lots of people are waking up to a world in which the EU regulations have a widespread and not always positive impact on the internet works. Now, we've detailed over the past couple of years there will be many good ideas in the GDPR, and there's also many ridiculously bad ones. Combined with poorly thought out drafting, we're already seeing some of the fallout from that. But believe it or not, there's even a larger threat from the EU looming that's received precious little attention. The EU's new copyright reform proposal is set to be voted on next month and will be truly disastrous to the internet. It currently stands it'll have a required widespread censorship in the form of mandatory filtering and also links tax that have already shown to be harmful to the news. So, the European Parliament member Julia Reid, I'm not mispronouncing, is sounding the alarm and asking people to speak out. And she notes, many of the folks are now freaking out about the GDPR, which they got involved in about 2 years ago when it was being debated. Now, if you're concerned about the problematic about the new copyright reform for the internet, now's the time to speak out, yes, even if you're not in the EU. So on the topic of copyright, you now have the chance to have an influence, a chance to be lost in 2 years, and will be sadly faced with the challenging of having to implement an upload filter and a link tax, or running into new limits on what we can do using web services we rely on. In a stark contrast to the GDPR, experts unanimously agree the copyright reform law as it stands now is really bad. Where in the case of the GDPR, the EU institutions pushed through many changes against the concerned lobbying effort of the big business interest, in the copyright reform, they're about to give them exactly what they want. Parliament and Council have had over a year to fix the glaring flaws of the Commission proposal, but despite the growing complexity, the latest drafts of both institutions failed to meet basic standards of workability and proportionality. I'm getting that wrong, but anyway. Reader Post goes on to detail the many problems of the current copyright proposal, in which merely linking a news site may require paying money, including like a link tax, where concerns about how that might negatively impact the entire internet are being woefully ignored. Perhaps even worse is the mandatory filtering idea. A big record label and movie studios have, of course, been pushing for this kind of thing for years to get back at Google mainly, and Facebook a little bit. But here's the thing, both Google and Facebook already have those filters and spend tens of millions of dollars on them. This kind of law, something or other over everybody else. Now, it's actually even worse than the mandatory filtering rule, because the EU radicalised that such a rule would violate other EU laws. So instead of deciding to hack away at the intermediary liability protections to make mandatory filtering necessary, make a platform directly liable for all copyright infringements by their users, and then offer that they can avoid an unreasonable liability if they show they've done everything in their power to prevent copyright content from appearing online, namely by deploying upload filters. Article 13, paragraph 4, which remain totally optional, of course. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Now, so what does this mean? Okay, so basically what they want to do now is make it so that platforms like, for example, Facebook or YouTube, for example, are actually responsible for what the users post on the system or on the platform. Now, the way you can get around this or get past this is by implementing these new filtering protocols. Now, the filtering protocols, they're completely optional, wink wink, nudge nudge, but at the end of the day, if you don't put them in, you're liable for what people post on your platform. Isn't that great? Yeah. Moving along. We've already spent years explaining how this will lead to widespread censorship online, but it'll also be a disaster for basically all the non-Google Facebook platforms out there. Mid-sized companies like GitHub, and I've already talked about how this could effectively destroy ability to operate, and lots of other sites would be impacted as well. Any kinds of forum sites would be at serious risk. Reddit, Pinterest, Twitch, Igma, WordPress, Medium, Vimeo. This would create massive liability for all those sites, making it nearly impossible for many of them to function in the EU. Now, reader notes that the new draft could make the situation even worse, in noting that even having these filters wouldn't be enough to avoid a liability. So Mr. Vass's latest draft expands the scope of censorship machine proposal to all web platforms. Those purpose is to give access to copyright content uploaded by a user in which optimize that content, which counts as optimizing. Among a long list of actions, we'll find that displaying the upload already makes platforms legally liable for any copyright infringement that may include Radical 37A. In these versions, web services can't even avoid liability by implementing upload filters. To protect themselves from being sued, they would need to get licenses from all right shoulders that exist on the planet before allowing user uploads to get online, just in case the upload may contain parts of any of their works. He also claims that checking every new user upload for whether it already incites one of these hundreds of thousands of specific copyright works somehow does not constitute great monitoring or general monitoring, Radical 39, which would be forbidden. Now that's some wishful lawmaking. So what they're actually saying here is that there's two versions of the plan. That most people in the EU are actually saying that the original idea isn't going further enough and that they need to expand the scope of the censorship, and what that would mean that basically any platform would be liable regardless of whether you put these filters in, and the only way around that would to be go through and to buy a license. Yes, we have to now license to post things on the internet. In case the fact that we are referencing a link of someone else's work. Yeah, I have a very big issue with all this, but let's keep going. As Rita points out, most of the EU member states appear to support these horrible ideas, or even pushing it to make it worse. Now what stands behind this horrible lawmaking What now stands between this horrible lawmaking and a mass of the internet is just the EU Parliament, which currently is scheduled to vote on this in late June, probably the 20th or 21st. If you are in the EU, it's now absolutely time to speak up. If you're outside the EU, it would also help to speak up and let the EU Parliament know that this is a horrible idea that will have significant problems for the wider internet, free speech and innovation. So how is this going to affect everybody? For example, I am referencing this material while doing this video. This video comes under fair use because I am providing news. That would not work in the EU. Under the second proposal, the more drastic one, I would then need to buy a license so that I could link to this article. Now, obviously, with the first one, the Facebook, YouTube, or whoever I upload the video to would be liable for me to upload information to their server. The only way around them not being liable would be to add a filter to the content that gets uploaded. Now you can imagine what information they want to filter out, basically alternative media. Even Soros has even said this himself. He wants to work with the EU to stop people meddling in the election because he wants to meddle more. So at the end of the day, you can imagine how this is going to affect alternative media. This is going to affect basically anybody reporting on the news who is not some large globalization company. Obviously, they'll be able to pay for these licenses, so that obviously wouldn't affect them. But it will affect everybody else who goes through and who reports on news. I don't know how it would affect like radio stations. I imagine they would also have to purchase. This would just shut down freedom of speech. This would shut down copyright law. Your copyright law would be null and void. And basically you would have to go through and purchase a license at the very least, or very worst, or at the very best, face censorship built into these platforms like Facebook and YouTube, because you know they're going to go through and put those in, because if they don't, they're then liable for whatever people upload. But don't worry, the filters are optional. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You can see what they're doing. So how do you go about saving this, or what do you do? So if you go to the website, saveyourinternet.eu, will be in the link description below. You can go through and sign up here. Now, you're probably wondering, what's this going to affect? So it threatens the sharing platform. So anybody that posts links on Facebook, threatens the sharing of memes, because that might contain copyright material, threatens the sharing of parodies, like parody videos and music and stuff, threatens live stream gaming, threatens the ability to remix tapes and stuff like that, threatens the ability to actually post links like on Facebook, and it also threatens the discussion platform and the blogging platforms. So basically the whole of the internet is under threat from this. And this is why we need you guys to go to this website, sign up, go through, sign this petition. Also, we need you to go through and share the absolute shit out of this video. Let everybody know exactly what is going on. Hopefully, if we get enough pressure put on the EU, we can make those guys change their mind. But at the moment, we only have a month. So please do that now rather than I'll do it tomorrow and never get around to it. But guys, let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Do you believe that this is as bad as what everybody is saying? Can you imagine the EU, which I probably could, going through and censoring the whole of the internet because they want to control information? Or do you think that this is just tinfoil hat, aluminium foil hat, conspiracy theory? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. If this video has been helpful, please smack a like. If you're new, channel welcome and subscribe. Apart from that, guys, I'll see you in the next demonetized video from YouTube. Have a great day and enjoy.